Good evening, one and all, and welcome along to season 2, episode 86, the Steelers post-game show. I'm Brian, and I'm joined tonight by my two Scottish brothers, Paul Stewart and Graham Wilson. How are you both doing, gentlemen?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
Better than I thought I was going to be.
Still
very
a
much
loss,
so.
Still a loss, but I'm not as depressed as I was going to expect to be. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. First comment in for the night. Just generated by Faye. I just met them on Twitch tonight. Who's moderating Antoine Woods' Twitch stream.
Oh, very good.
Awesome stuff, man. Sweet.
Future possibilities.
Yep,
But good. So as we say, good evening, one and all. Do not be afraid to send us your comments. Let us know your thoughts from Saturday's game or Sunday's game. Let us know what you thought of the performance. I think we were all very much encouraged by what happened. As we say, I think it was a better performance than any of us expected. Definitely better than I thought. So let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you think. As we say, unless you get involved, there's just three guys here just chatting amongst themselves. So send us in your comments. But and it's great to see they're already flying in. Great stuff, folks.
Yeah, comments are flying in already. Good stuff. Keep it coming, guys. Get your comments and see what you guys thought about the game.
Mm-hmm. So just before we jump into the game, obviously we'll give you the injury update as we have it. So unfortunately, it looks like Trayvon Diggs' season is over. He has broke a bone in his foot, 4 to 6 weeks out. And unfortunately, the injuries along the O-line have not stopped, and Tyler Biadasz looks like he's pulled his hamstring and is looking at multiple weeks out. Now, thankfully, we're going into a bye week, so we don't have a game this week, but it's not a bad place to be. But still, our best corner from this year is out, and our potential new starting centre is out. So, what are the thoughts there, gentlemen?
And kick in the teeth what's already been 2020 so far. It just seems like any ounce of momentum just takes it right underneath our feet every time. Mm-hmm. It came with Dak. It came with now Diggs. So it's it's that point now where you're just like, what can we do now? You know.
Yeah.
I think the only really thing it kind of doesn't matter anymore. That's what I kind of feel like. If we had a 500 record, and we were to lose Diggs, it would mean an awful lot more. I think we know what we've got in Diggs, and it feels like he's one for the future. So a foot injury like that at this point in the season means so much less. Like this is when you start putting your kind of Super Bowl run together almost. This kind of stage of the season where the wins mean more and the losses mean more, obviously. So with Biadasz, I don't know if he was going to be set to be the centre for the rest of the season anyway. I don't know if he tied down that job. At least we've got Joe Looney back.
To be fair, he did okay considering that was his first game back. He did do all right. But yeah, when you really, there was a few things where our O-line still kind of made some stupid mistakes and stuff like that. But overall, when you kind of break it down, we actually did all right against, probably without a doubt, one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL right now with TJ and all that. So I thought, you know what, it's like you said, it's actually quite encouraging just to see that with a pretty much a second string whole O line and a fourth string quarterback.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Sunday felt like auditioning for the 2021 season. It's like, right, okay, guys, we've got rid of some dead wood. Who wants to be the replacement? Type idea. With Diggs out, you might see that corner. We've got a couple of free agents coming up in the cornerback position. I think Awuzie and Lewis are both free agents, so it's time to claim a job for next year, and hopefully we'll see a rise out of somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, my volume line needs to be turned up a bit.
I mean, I think we've been kind of saying this for the last couple of weeks. Like Cheeto's due back. You know, I mean, we really need him to come in now and, you know, fill that void that's left by Trevon Diggs. I think, Trevon has gotten burned on more than one occasion, but it's definitely a case of he's been our best corner. You know, he's gotten 2 interceptions in the Eagles game, but it's just his general demeanor and his attitude has been spot on from the day he arrived, and that's a positive, and you want to see that.
I mean, when you find Diggs going up against the number one in so many of the teams. I mean, welcome to your rookie season, Stefan. Here's DK Metcalf in your face. You know, you're thinking, yeah, thanks for that, coach. But I mean, he's in that position because he's literally our best corner. And to come in and do it in his rookie season, I mean, we talk about Lamb at our first pick, but we hit it out of the park with our second pick as well. We got huge value for Diggs in the second round.
Extremely amazing value. Extremely, it's like you said, like he's been up against DK Metcalf. Look at the other wide receivers he's been up against. Like, yeah, he may have had a bit of a flunder. That could be across what the whole injury was against Juju, like with the shoulder. That could be why, like, he were kind of raised to that touchdown. Who knows? But overall, when you put him across that whole season, he's been nothing but, like, if you were to like put the wee small mistakes, but overall, it's been fantastic. He really has.
Yeah, he has.
Guys, just to check, is my volume? Just to check, is my volume okay? Yeah,
it's a little bit high, Paul.
Yeah, all good.
A little bit high. Right, okay. Right.
Because we're going to go back to you, Paul. Yeah, we're going to go back to you with this comment. A guy that we haven't seen much of, but who definitely showed up on Sunday. And there's the comment.
What have I been telling everyone? He was going to launch off at some point. Like, maybe not. I didn't expect it to be this season, but by God, he had a game, man. He was just tenacious in that middle field. He really was. He was causing those guards so much trouble, and that's all you heard. That's all you heard through the broadcast was Neville Gallimore this, Neville Gallimore that. So, yeah, he was brilliant, and like I said, I've been buzzing about this guy since we ever drafted him. I've been buzzing about him when we were talking about in the pre-draft. It's like we should draft him, all that stuff. Now we've got him. I know for a fact that he is going to be a genuine starter for the Cowboys in the future, for sure. Right, and that's just a taste of what he can do. Just imagine, give him his second year, maybe in his third year, when he's got that build, like he's more matured up. He's played the more regular season games. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
When you can hold the Steelers to 46 rushing yards, you're doing well.
Exactly.
That is the core of the Steelers' offense. They've got talented receivers, but they play AFC North football. They run the ball and play good defense.
And big shout out to Antoine Woods as well. And honestly, he deserves so much love and credit for what he did during that game to prevent Juju to disrespect that star during that game. Fair play to Antoine Woods. He was I could not say a bad thing about our D line at all. Like this is the thing that me and West Coast were talking about on the pre-game show. It's like it just seems to be there was a fire that was ignited in that previous game, and if they can carry that momentum, maybe it was down to Don Taripo and Everson Griffin bringing that morale down because they were coming in. They came from a different system, but they had their own ways of doing things, and it may have played a bad effect on the rest of the unit. Who knows? But since they were gone, everyone has stepped up their game in that defensive line, big time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that was the point I was going to come to. Is in the last 2 weeks, our defensive line especially has shown up, as well as our whole defense. It was 22.24 points in the last 2 weeks. I think that's about the best. That's about the 10th or 11th best defense in the league is conceding that kind of a score. So now obviously we can't discount the 6 games before that. But Graham, give us your opinion. Since Everson Griffin has gone out the door, since Dontari-Poe was cut, something has changed. Was it the impact of those players going out the door? Is it that these new guys are now buying into things?
Sorry, Brian, you're breaking up. Can you give us that one again?
I said, give us your thoughts. Has something changed in the defence, or has the fact that Dontari-Poe and Everson Griffin gone out the door made us better?
I think it's probably a combination of lots of things. I would say that to get rid of two, shall we say, declining starters, and then to bring in fresh blood into the team to show that they're willing to make changes and make people put people back out on the street or trade to get rid of them. And then you also have to give Mike Nolan a bit of credit. He has taken so much stick over this past season.
Yeah, he has. And frankly, I am one of them. We all are. We've all criticised Mike Nolan. We've all criticised him. But yeah, it's when you really break down the overall game in terms of our defence, it is just a massive step up. So it is. We're seeing more guys actually fitting into the scheme, and obviously with the help with there we go, with LV Van Der Esch coming back, it seems to be like everyone seems to kind of like getting that like communication, which I thought was probably one of the biggest weaknesses we had. Is like no one was communicating what they were doing. Nobody was like assigned up properly. The corners were like maybe like 5 yards back than the way they should have been at sometimes. Our defensive ends were in a 2-point stance where they wouldn't feel comfortable, but now they seem to be set on what they want to be doing now. So, I mean, for all I want for going the rest of the season, and as if like who knows what will happen, because our division is so open, because we are pretty much the bad bunch for the NFL right now. So we could still somehow, some way, we could still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's the reality. It's like it's still worth chasing after. Like we could still have the worst 8 games of the season and turn that around, still make the playoffs, and actually have a really good end. And who knows, and could actually go through and make a big, massive dent at the postseason.
What I will say though is, I hope it's not a one-off. I hope that we see a bit of stability now on defense in particular. We all know the issues on the offensive list, that we've lost for the entire season. I want to see more consistency. I want to see. We held an 0-8 team, an 0-7 team to 9 points in the first half. That game was there for the winning, and it was just nice to be ahead at halftime.
That was the first time throughout the whole season we were ahead going into the second half, And you know what? It was refreshing. It was actually, it felt great.
Yeah.
Like even though like for people would say, "Oh, we should actually tank the season." No, when we've got a chance to actually still make the playoffs, anything could happen. We can still make that run. So who knows? Seeing we've got more people coming in. We've got David Ironside. How we doing, Saw? How we doing?
I'll bet the halftime team talk was a hell of a lot easier for Mike McCarthy this week.
Oh, without a doubt.
Last week, giving us something to work with at halftime rather than being 2 scores behind. But yeah, to go back to the original question, I hope we can see some stability now. We never know. Maybe the Mike Nolan offense is finally clicking in some players' heads. Maybe the disappearance of that's big news.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just go for people on the podcast. The NFL has just expanded the playoffs to 16 teams. I actually know a little bit.
So that's pretty much, if you come second place, you're already in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is to do with some teams not being in the position to fulfill games during the season.
Wow, that is a game changer. That is a game changer.
But that's big news because it might only be 16 teams, but it's still half the league.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They're covering all angles here.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think now. So how would that actually work? Would that mean every team that's won the division will get a bye week, and it's all the second place teams playing through? Is that how it's going to work?
Either that or
you're going to be one plays 8, 2 plays 7, and down. So all the divisional winners get a home game.
Yeah.
I mean,
it might work the same format as how the Champions League soccer, football work. For our friends in the States are watching this, that's how that format works.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm sure. I think it's Mike on Facebook tonight. I'm sure he'll keep us up to date with more and more stuff coming in. But let's see some consistency from the defense.
Who didn't use this contingency plan if meaningful games cannot be played due to the Rona, i.e. the coronavirus? Totally understandable.
That's it. But before we get too much further into the podcast, it's gone way past the time where we normally give our shout out to our sponsors.
Yes.
So Paul, I'll hand it over to you.
Yep. So, guys, if you're participating or planning going ahead to a Cowboys game this season, be sure to go to cowboysexperience.com for the ultimate meet and greet, tailgate experience, and game day experience. Obviously, due to COVID-19 restrictions, some of the partakes are limited. But for next season, in 2021, be sure to get in contact and use the discount code UK Cowboys to receive a free gift just by mentioning it. That's all you need to do is just mention UK Cowboys and you get a free gift.
And as we always say, in the words of Rich Jones, don't be a clown. Get free stuff.
Get free stuff.
Well, again, do keep an eye on Cowboys Experience social media pages, their Twitter, their Facebook, their Instagram. They are trying to organise some virtual events in and around the Thanksgiving game.
I just want to bring that comment up. Like, it's still so true though, when you really do think about it. We are still blessed to actually have football at all this season. Any football. Yeah. We've actually, we're blessed to even have the discussion about this, about the game, despite if it's a win or a loss. It's still something to talk about. It's still something, and yeah, we are still fortunate to have it. So I just thought, raised that comment by Alex there. So great comment, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. So obviously, look, we're gonna start taking a look at the numbers during the game. So as you can see them going through the bottom of the screen. I mean, what were your opinions on the offense and the performance from the offense on Sunday night.
Gilbert,
I have my own opinion, but I'll let you guys go first.
Personally, it's went beyond my expectations. I was expecting us to fumble, no matter what. We got told before the game that Zeke might not play. Then all of a sudden he's out warming up, and we're like, "What the hell's going on?" I was like, "If he's still injured, don't play him, because we don't want him wrecked for the rest of the season, and that could linger on going towards next season." So I'm just like, okay, but in terms of the actual performance, God bloody hell, like, I was over the moon with the fact that we were moving the ball, we were getting into the red zone. Don't get me wrong, we didn't capitalise every opportunity in the red zone, but the fact that we were still moving the ball compared to last week, and to me, that's still a good, massive like encouragement. And kudos to Garrett Gilbert, by the way. I thought for him to come in from a Cleveland Browns practice squad, and within a week, you could see he was commanding our offensive line. He was talking to them. He was talking to our wide receivers on the sideline. The guy deserves a lot of credit for what he did.
Yeah. For me, huge respect for Garrett Gilbert. Tremendous performance. Looking at the stats, there's one interception, but it was not his fault by any means. I think it was a juggle from CD that caused the interception. To go in there and to have a banged up Zeke Elliott was impressive as well, because I think they realised. I mean, we all saw the pictures. He was out in the hoodie and tracksuit trousers, warming up, keeping the muscles warm, and I think we were delighted to get 51 yards out of him on 18 touches, just to get some leadership and some drive on that offense. But they recognised that and given 9 touches to Pollard, and he got 6.3 per carry or per reception. So, but again, you're going up against that Steelers defensive front with a banged up offensive line. Gilbert got the ball out quickly. He was very, very effective. And even the 2-minute drill. What a 2 minute! I mean, to get us down to the red zone and to have it batted away inside the end zone, that could have been it could have been so much different. If they don't close on that ball as quickly as they did, we're talking about a Cowboys win against an undefeated team. That's how close we were.
And that's kind of something I was kind of saying in the pre-game show, because we've had a history where when everyone's all stacked against us, against an undefeated team, we've always seemed to come on top. Like through it, I would say about 3.5 quarters, we were the better team for that game. Then we just kind of, just that wee dip at the end, offensively and a little bit defensively, and we just kind of like politely gave the Steelers that win. Unfortunately, I know that's the probably the nicest way of saying it, but there was but I just do want to flag this up. And again, Alex has raised up a really good question. It's like there was a holding call on Amari in the end zone. Another interesting talking point. Because I think I know why he's asking it, because we had that regards to when it was our defense with the Steelers, they got the exact same penalty, and we didn't. So that was a game changer for me as well when looking back at the tape. Yeah,
it was. I mean, I'm not. It's something we'll come back to later in terms of the defense, because I mean we had 2 defensive penalties called on us that were absolute bullshit.
Yes, they were. The one in Van Der Esch was just a joke. It really was.
Yeah, and then the one the one on Jalen was it was a joke, absolute joke. But
if we could bring up that last comment from Andrew, if you let the game play out, recapping on special teams just for a minute, They missed the field goal but got it back on a false start. So going by the rules, they had every opportunity to take the field goal again, but it was their mistake. So there was no opportunity to decline it because it was a false start. If they missed that field goal, we're in field goal range to win that game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Without having to go for the end zone. So they talk about little differences. That was a huge difference. It's just unfortunate that it was a false start and not something more ridiculous like a hold or something like that, because you can decline a hold.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about game of inches. Goodness, it was a game of decisions. We'll go on to the defensive penalties later on in the show, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But tiny differences.
Tiny.
I mean,
and absolutely, we'll have to come back to the special teams as well, because we always try and give the special teams a bit of love, but I mean,
absolutely.
there's a lot of love has to go out to the special teams after this weekend's game.
Steady, we'll get there.
We'll get there. But one thing, and the question, this is coming in non-stop.
It's been asked a few times.
Yeah, it's not just from that one. That's the most recent one I could see. But I mean, Stephen Jones has kind of come out and said that Dalton will be the quarterback when he's back. A lot of people are calling for Garrett Gilbert to start. I mean, what's your own opinions?
I'd say Gilbert. I know it's daft to say. Like, I don't know. Unless somehow magically Dalton just like, I suppose because we're paying Dalton all that like more money, we need to play him. Yeah. That to me is probably the only reason why. Like, but if you, it could be a lot of things as well. It's like, it's the more extensive playbook and stuff like that. So I don't know, but for me, I would love to give the kid Gilbert more opportunity to see what he can do, because this could be the diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Like this could be something that we start get him signed up for next season as the backup. Who knows?
For me, I can see both sides. On merit, it should be Gilbert, because Andy Dalton's first start wasn't great, if we remember right. Yeah. But I will say, I think Dalton gives us a better chance to win. I would say that Gilbert had a good game against a tremendous defense, but
not just that, and literally less than a week preparation to learn the playbook, and a very limited playbook, and getting those mental reps in for first team, because he was competing with Cooper Rush. They were battling back and forth to see who's going to get that number one spot for that game.
Well,
so
don't forget, Gilbert has been around for 3 or 4 weeks. It's not just 1 week. He was brought in 3 or 4 weeks ago.
No, it's not as much as that. It wasn't as much as for you.
It was. He was brought in at least 3 weeks ago. But I mean, there's a question. There's something from Lauren there in terms of, if we're still in it in the East, you go with Dalton. I mean, would you both agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing or agreeing. Like, either way, it's like it is a flip of a coin. Whoever we put in at quarterback right now, it really is. Like, I really enjoyed watching Gilbert playing. I thought he was quite exciting to watch. And they don't. At least like. That game when he played against was Washington where he got injured.
Yeah.
He didn't really have the best of games. We all know that. Like, and when he did try to make something of it, he ended up getting his head taken off.
Yeah.
I would ask the question, in any given Sunday against any given team, who is more likely to throw 3 touchdown passes?
It would be Dalton, I would say.
I would say Andy Dalton, and I think that's why they're going with Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Because, and I think the Dalton's kind of experience of game management, I think is putting him ahead as well. I I mean, do you remember the age-old story? You don't lose coaches. They used to say that coaches, you don't lose your job because of an injury.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you ever heard that saying before? I just think it's there's almost a slice of that in it. You know, he wasn't benched, Andy Dalton. He was taken out for a rather vicious hit. We'll not go into that anymore because we've said enough.
Just what I kind of flagged up what Andrew does. As far as where we are aware, it's like basically if you're in second place of your division, you're still in the playoffs, pretty much the way how based on the reports are going right now. But we won't find any more later details once after we finish up the show, probably.
Yeah.
So it's not based on wildcard?
It's not. I don't think so. I think it's based.
I would imagine it's got to be based on wildcard rules because especially looking at our division. I mean, if a team gets into the playoffs with a
you're right, actually. So there could be 3 teams in one division.
Uproar.
There could be 4 from the NFC West.
Yes.
The NFC West is ridiculous at the moment.
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's one thing we need to find out, Andrew.
This is only just breaking news, and we're live at the moment.
We're still trying to digest this information as we're going along with the show right now. So,
as we said, like Mike is digging in the background for more information on it. So as we get it, we'll make it available to you. But in terms of Zeke obviously couldn't do what he normally does, but Tony Pollard showed up on Sunday.
He did. I mean, see, in terms of our running backs, I could not be any more. Like I was satisfied what we did. We ran the ball. We got on their faces. It was proper smash with football. When we did have Zeke in, he was really digging his shoulder down low to gain those extra yards after tackle. So. Like for anyone who was kind of questioning the seat before it, his heart's not in it. If you were to watch certain plays during that whole game and the way how he was running very powerfully. And to me, I was a wee bit concerned because with the hamstring and that, you shouldn't be running as powerful because if you put that extra strain in your legs, it's just going to go. But that just shows his determination, what he wants to do for this team. And same with Pollard. So if you were to kind of summarize how our running back, it's not a 100-yard game. There was no touchdown, but in terms of an actual performance, in terms of effort and like just overall, I'm quite happy what they did.
Like kind of going back to that point, I threw up there from Alfie. Would you be inclined to give Tony Pollard more touches, Graham?
Not at the expense of Zeke Elliott. I think if the situation comes around where they decide to get the ball out quickly.
Jeez, that's a big comment, Andy.
That's a big comment, Andy.
Try and get the characters down a little bit so we can actually see our faces.
I'm sure one of the guys will try and dissect that. I mean, there's no getting away from the fact that Pollard is above serviceable. He's a good player for the Cowboys offense.
Especially how when we drafted him, he was a 4th rounder. I mean, for him to come in like as he did, he's doing a really good job, Pollard.
It's difficult because they're not. They are chalk and cheese. They're two different types, and it's good for. For Kellen Moore to have that.
Who's the other dynamic running backs? The LA had Gurley and they had who's the one that killed us at the playoffs?
CJ Henderson.
That's the one. So you had the more elusive running back in Gurley at the time. Then you had the more power back in CJ Anderson. So it's how you utilize those players in those different situations. You'll get the benefit of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've got good going with. If Zeke, who's the more power back, will gain those extra yards, and when he's got that when he's cleared, he is gone. But whereas Pollard, he's that more elusive running back. He's really hard to tackle.
That may be another reason for Dalton, because if they want to line Pollard up in the backfield and then split him out wide on a motion, that's deep playbook stuff. That stuff, that's maybe stuff that Gilbert hasn't got to just yet. So that's maybe another reason why they're going with Dalton.
That's a great comment from Lon there. Great comment.
Yeah.
As much as I don't like the Giants, but I agree.
But I think, and again, I'm assuming this is Mike that was sending in this comment. It's that Tony Pollard is not an all-down back. He's he's your change of pace back. I mean, like if you look around the league, right? A couple of years ago, Atlanta had Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman as the two-headed backs. You had Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon last year for the Chargers. I'm trying to think, combinations here. Look at the 49ers. I mean, they have about 5 different running backs and fullbacks that are all, you never know when one of them is going to show up, So you have to have a second running back that can come in and do something for you.
You had Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams for the Steelers at one point.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and just going by the stats, the Pollard only had 1 reception. So his job on Sunday was to literally run the ball, take over from Zeke. I mean, it's good to have a backup that can do that. You can step in and take over when your number one isn't quite up to full health, or if he's out of the game for some sort of situation. So certainly he's showing that he can step in and carry a bit of workload. But I would see Pollard, like Mike says, he's a change of pace. He's when you've got a lead, you can afford the luxury of being a bit creative and splitting your running back out wide to throw the ball a bit more. He's not going to go downfield, but he'll get you the first down.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. A point I wanted to touch on, and I know I discussed this with you guys after the game on Sunday, in terms of the offense. We were in the red zone, 7 yards to go, and Kellen Moore once again got cute and tried throwing the ball rather than stuffing it down their throats. I mean, it's 1 touchdown in 3 games. In the last 2 games, we've been in the red zone 5 times. We've had no touchdowns. Is Moore being too cute in his calls and not trying to play smash mouth football? Is he just concerned that the gaps aren't opening for the running backs, or is it something else?
I think it could be a factor of a few things, mate. I think the reason why he was trying to do the trickery stuff is because if we were to do any other play, it would have been too predictable.
Yeah.
So this is why I kind of think this is why Kellen Moore did do that. So I'm not trying to defend what Kellen Moore did, but this is what I'm trying to find behind the crazy mind that he has,
Yeah.
So, so I can understand that from that perspective, that's the case. Again, it could be the stacking of the defensive line going against our offensive line, and that's where the gaps are, and they're going open. It could be it could be many. Honestly, it could be many factors. It just could be the fact that we're just that nervous. We're that close to the end zone, and we just bottle it.
Yeah,
So again, it could be that. Who knows? But it is a concern for me. And it's like you said, like 5 attempts and only 1 touchdown in the past 2 games.
None. They've been in the red zone 5 times in the 2 games and no touchdowns.
No touchdowns, and our touchdown.
No touchdowns at all.
But the touchdown we had in the game came from a long pass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't necessarily count. So no, you're right. It is a deep concern because when you move up the offense way up to that 20-yard line and less, it should be money in the bank every time. It should be, especially with the weapons that we've got offensively. When you think about it,
I'm gonna cut my break. I think Tony Romo called it beautifully at the start of the game. They asked him to do his kind of report for each team, and he said for I almost said Eagles. He said for the Steelers defense, don't blitz. Why did they not blitz? Because they're going to get there with 4 anyway, and you can literally load up the backfield. So, on one hand, I think our at the moment our pass protection is better than our run blocking. I think that goes into it. I also think that you're talking about a Steelers defense that has less ground to cover in the red zone. So you're going to have to think of something. I mean, they're not going to call a halfback dive right up the middle of the field because it's too predictable. Especially behind our offensive line. So.
Especially when you've got TJ Watt, who is probably without a doubt one of the quickest at get-offs. Yeah. He's did you see the wee segment they did in terms of evaluating his get-off speed? It is ridiculous. It's literally straight, like not even. It's like he's gone when that ball snapped. It's very impressive, and again, this is another thing as well. It's like we just shot ourselves in the foot. Why did we not draft him?
Yeah, I mean.
The practice red zone offense. I mean, they must do. They must practice red zone offense. So
you would like to think so, yeah.
To go with our fourth QB is it fourth QB in 4 games? I think it is. Yes. You're gonna suffer a bit. I think we wouldn't have that stat with Dak Prescott. There's no way we would have it with Dak Prescott. So Moore's working with 2s at the moment, and I think we need to cut him some slack for that.
I think, and it's funny that you mentioned that. Like Moore's he's in a really difficult job himself. The fact that he's having to not worry about his starting quarterback. He's having to kind of like pick and choose. He's like depending on the situation because different quarterbacks, the backups all have different qualities that might benefit for each game as well.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's having to basically it's like for him going back preseason again and retuning back up to this playbook. Like he's basically taking 4 steps back to get 1 step forward.
Like I think, Graham, you kind of segued into a beautiful little point there, and it was the point I was going to bring up anyway. I mean, I think these 3 games have more than proven the Dak haters need to shut the fuck up.
Language.
I think these games have shown, like, I think at least one of these games we would have won with Dak Prescott under center.
I definitely would have said at least 2 of them.
And possibly two, because you have to account for it. But, I mean, Graham, as I say, let's give us your thoughts on the Dak haters and what they need to, the medicine they need to take right now.
What more do you need? What more do you need? The Cowboys have come out during the week saying, forget about drafting at a QB in the first round. No chance. Dak is our guy. A contract will get done. I was certain of it before that comment. I'm even more certain of it now. I mean, look at Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup has disappeared. Yes. Cooper's getting his yardage because he's Amari Cooper and he's our standout number 1.
And he's getting roughed and toughed about in that field regardless. He still puts in the shift. Yeah.
They're not finding Michael Gallup. They are finding CeeDee Lamb, but because he's third choice, I would say in the pecking order.
Appreciate your honesty, Alex. Appreciate it, man. Like, don't get us wrong, we've all been hard on Dak, but it just comes to show how much we really appreciate Dak now more than ever.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Dak is a shining example of why players sign their players normally sign their contracts before pre-season training camp because all it takes is one funny step, a funny turn, somebody landing on your ankle getting rolled up, and your season's done.
Another good example, Graham, would be Todd Gurley, who I mentioned before. He signed that big massive contract, got his knee injured. He's still got paid, but the team kind of suffered in a way that way.
Yeah, I think. You don't even have to go into the stats. I mean, see if See if you, I think it was up until a week ago, Sky Sports were running the.
He was still top QB of the NFL, and he's not even played 3 games.
Yeah, so they're running the passing leaders, touchdown, leading rushers, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott was still there.
Yeah, still number 1.
I mean, and one of the reasons he was still there because we've got, on paper we've got a number 1 offense, but there was so much put on his shoulders with the defense. I mean, we were literally having to throw just to stay in the game, and he was handling it. Fair enough, our record wasn't great, and we were having to put up 40 burgers, but you never felt like we were out of the game until they went down, and that's been a huge shift. They can do so much. So much of that playbook has been binned because we don't have Dak Prescott. They have kept it simple, and that's also hurting the offense.
I just want to add a point in as well, and you kind of briefly just mentioned it, Brian, as regards to like how many games do you think we would have won if that was still healthy? I'm saying 2 because the defense side, because they stepped up, they're actually take the pressure off our offense.
Yeah,
and that was those it would have been the Steelers game there, and it would have been last week there.
Yeah,
those would have been the 2 games that we would have won.
Yeah. That's true, and I know I love winding up Paul every weekend when we start talking about the draft positions and draft. Brian, sunshine.
You can stop right there. You can stop.
As I say, there's the name for me. I've been saying it every week. Penny Sewell, guys. If you haven't checked this guy out. And I actually think he might not be able to because I think he's taken the season out on COVID. But check his tape out on YouTube, on his scouting networks you're on. Penny Sewell, offensive tackle, Oregon.
I'm gonna stay out of this chat because I was listening to the ESPN podcast this afternoon, and they even suggested that Trevor Lawrence will stay in school because will stay in school because he doesn't want to end up in New York. If he goes to the Jets, he will have a first. His rookie season will be horrendous, and he'll end up seeing ghosts because there is very little. There's very little positivity about that Jets team. See, in your spare time, go down the list and look at the ex running backs who have been in touch with the Jets coaching team at some point, and look at what great careers they're having after they left an Adam Gase offense. It's incredible, the list. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the list is long. Believe me.
Yeah.
I've got a mystic ball, right? And somehow my gut feeling is that the Colts are going to make a big, massive trade up in the future. The Colts for Trevor Lawrence for quarterback. When you think about it, Philip Rivers has got a 2-year contract. He's got 1 year left after that. They could get this QB in, get him tailored up a little bit. They've already got a good foundation. They've got a good O-line. They've got a decent defense. It's a decent establishment for them to get a quarterback in. They did it with Andrew Luck. Did all right. I can see it happening with either Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. But that's enough about them. That's enough about all those other crap 31 teams. Screw them.
Yeah. Look, as we say, it's time to flip it over onto our defense. And we've kind of covered some of what we want to talk about already. Paul, give us your thoughts on the defensive line. You're a defensive line expert. Take it away.
Defensive line, I could not be any more happier. Honestly, when you compare the previous weeks, it is a massive mindset change. We saw Antoine Woods fired up, ready to go. We saw the emergence of Neville Gallimore, which we already briefly spoke about at the start of the show. And we're seeing Sean Lee returning, LVE's back, and don't get me wrong, Jalen still got his critics out there, but he still played a decent game. So we pretty much had a front seven that we were so used to before, where they had the chemistry from last season, and it wasn't like someone else coming in, filling the spot, or some player that didn't play with us last season. It was pretty like, well, with the exception of Gallimore, obviously, but in terms of overall in our front seven, I could not be happier, honestly. And like you mentioned before, it was less than 60 yards rushing they got in total or something like that. That is great when you compare all those previous weeks. We were giving up so many yards to second-rated running backs. One of them was a fisherman or something like for Cleveland. I can't even remember what his job title was. So when you put that in perspective, it was a great turnaround and a massive boost of morale for this defensive line and the linebacker core.
Yeah.
Honestly, even though we lost the game, but I was happy. The fact is the most important word is fight. We had that fight in us in that game.
Yeah, I normally give the defensive line a lot of stick for not recording any sacks. But if you were to ask me who's the toughest QB in the league to sack, it would be Big Ben, because I mean the guy's a man mountain anyway, and he can get the ball out so quickly.
Ben Roethlisberger is literally a walking Johnny Bravo of the NFL. Skinny legs, big massive upper body.
He gets rid of the ball so quickly. You know, he doesn't allow the sack. They're 8-0 for the simple reason that they don't turn the ball over and they don't allow themselves the opportunity to get a tough third down situation. So 3 tackles for loss, like Paul said, huge game from Gallimore. Do you know what? I was even happy with DeMarcus Lawrence's performance. There's a clip on Twitter. I think David Hellman shared it. Tank starts off at left defensive end and makes a tackle on the right because he covers the running back all the way across the line. You maybe seen it, and goes in to make the tackle. So
that's the other word, Graham. There was hustle.
Yeah.
Players were hustling to the ball. They were chasing after it, and that was the big difference. And I know I keep mentioning this piece of crap player that did used to play for us, but there was when he was in the field, there was no hustle. But now I don't know what's happened. I don't know if Mike Nolan somehow managed to pull a bunny out that magic hat and say, "Kada, hustle." I don't know, but the matter of fact is, we've actually got players that are now hungry. They're and not just that, they know that their jobs are on the line. Now it's this point in the stage of the season, and I think that there is actually a little bit of fire up their arse as well. So there's that perspective as well, but that shouldn't really play into it. That should not play into their minds. They should be bettering themselves regardless of that contract.
Yeah,
because it's people are going to have that perception of you regardless, no matter what.
I mean, they talk about it. They talk about it on Hard Knocks. You know, that fair enough. You've made the team week 1 of the season, but you're constantly fighting for your position, and that's what annoyed us so much, because you saw so little fight. And we hear all the times about good quality players around the league that can't get into teams because there's a 53-man roster, or normally a 53-man roster. So you just wanted them to make some kind of spark decision, and see since they've got rid of Poe and traded Griffin, there seems to be a huge spike. But I'll go back to what I said at the start of the show. It's only going to take effect if there's a bit of consistency. See, if we go out and lose 40-odd points in 2 weeks, we'll forget all about Sunday.
Love that comment, Lon. Love that.
It's true. It reminded me of quote, and I thought a lot around the Clemson Notre Dame game at the weekend. It was a BYOG performance. Bring your own guts. Those guys fucking worked their tails off at the weekend. They showed up. They were not, as much as we said, 46 yards, but it was also, as Paul said, D'Antoine Woods bit where he fucking wasn't letting Juju Smith-Schuster go to the star and do a TO on it. There just seemed to be a thing of, you're not coming in our house, you're not going to crap on us.
Honestly, big shout out to Anton Woods. If you're watching this, dude, because I was talking to him earlier this week, also during his live stream on Twitch, he plays a little bit of gaming, and I told him you're going to be the talking point in our show tonight. So he's like, all right, sweet, awesome. So, but yeah, man, big shout out to big Anton Woods for defending the star, man. You're an absolute legend, mate, and a Cowboys favourite, mate. Always will be.
I think it's no coincidence that Randy Gregory's come back.
Oh, that could be how did we forget about him? Oh, how did we forget about Randy Gregory? How did we forget about that?
Yep, I think it's no coincidence that he comes. I mean, I'll be honest. I thought, I mean, how could you expect great things from Gregory? He's been out of the league so long. He's basically Alden Smith 2.0. He's been out of the league for so long. You really don't know what's coming back, but I think he showed up big on Sunday, and I think that's another contributing factor.
The thing is with Gregory, right? He's got a chip in his shoulder, big chip in his shoulder. Like, especially, it wasn't like he knows he made mistakes, but he did not like the way how the NFL treated him before, like this whole scenario at the start of this season, but the whole reinstatement thing. So he's playing that with a bit more. I'm trying to find the right word here. A bit more ferocity. Now, like, we're seeing that, like, he is pushing back the offensive tackles like there are nothing. Now, and these are experienced pros.
Just again with Gregory, you just hope that he's got rid of his demons and he's ready to play 16 games for us. Because see if he comes in and does well, there's every chance he could get a large contract.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We've all been we were like, Cut. At one point, one of us have all said, "Cut Gregory. It's about time we get rid of him." But there's a reason why we kept him. It's like when he is actually on that field, and Alex just took the words right out of my mouth. He is a stud. Do you remember the game when he played against Tampa Bay a couple of seasons ago? Where he sacked James Winston, then Jalen Smith ran for the touchdown. Like, that was a coming out party for Randy Gregory that game. Like, he was phenomenal there, and it's just like, the guy's a unit. Like even before back in the draft days, like, he was supposed to be a early first rounder, but because of the weed and stuff like that, he got pushed to the second, and that's why we took the gamble on him to get him in the second.
Yeah. With there, all I was about to bring that up and say I think it was myself and Jamie, and it might have been LDW, were chatting the night he was drafted. That was a Friday night because he was a second round pick. And we're just going, fuck! I can't believe we've got this guy. It just it was you're just going, it's amazing. And they worked their tails off to get him, and they've kept him about for a reason. They haven't said, look, bye-bye, it's too many indiscretions. They've kept him around, tried helping him with his demons, tried helping him with everything they could to get Randy Gregory, the football player, back out onto the field.
Yeah. Like, he hasn't, like, the thing is with Gregory, he hasn't done anything in training, like to get him into serious trouble outside the NFL. It's just basically recreational use. Yeah. And that's down to his mental health, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a mental health expert, but that's what 9 times out of 10 when people are feeling depressed or whatever, they'll end up having a bit of weed or something like that. And fair play to you. And now with everything now becoming legalized for weed, unless you're in Oregon, where they've now, I don't know if you guys know about this, but they've legalized crystal meth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Saw that at the weekend, all right.
Jesus. So, but that's besides the point. But the point is just like now things are kind of easing off in terms of that particular drug use.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to actual law enforcement as well. Like, there's no sentences and stuff like that. In terms of the punishment for the NFL is becoming less now for this. Yeah. You would expect to see Gregory now get more game time now, which is good.
It's true. I'm gonna throw this over.
Sorry, I stand corrected. It was decriminalized. Criminal. I can't even say it. Thank you, Stephen. Cheers for that. I cannot say that. Tip of my tongue.
I'm going to throw this one over to Graham. It's kind of a two-headed question because you can't say one without the other. Obviously, we mentioned it earlier, was the number of penalties on defense at key times that were called against us. But the number of comments that have flown in so far in terms of Jalen Smith, and I know we were talking about this before earlier today when we were deciding who was coming on. And it was a point Richard Jones said to me. He said, I want you to bring it up. Is Jalen Smith the new Tony Romo or Dak Prescott of this team, in that Jalen can do 99 things right, and yet he does one thing wrong and everyone gets on his back?
I mean, can you imagine the referees calling that on the 85 Bears? Not a chance. If you go, I presume we're talking about the unnecessary roughness on Roethlisberger. What an awful call.
Yeah,
absolute nonsense.
Not just that, it happened to Gilbert as well. It happened to Gilbert as well. He got neck track, like face case tracked down, and not one flag, not one. Absolute bullshit. Any defensive lineman, I mean, obviously I haven't played, but any defensive lineman, I'd imagine one of the core things you're taught as a D lineman is get your arms up. And the arm has to come down sooner or later. He's desperate to get a sack, tackle for loss, blah, 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 blah. The league is getting far too soft when we talk about the QB position. Now, I get that we're a television game. We have audiences around the world. We like high scoring games. We want to keep our QBs safe and so on. But it's not as if it was a punch thrown in a blind alley after a night out in a club. The guy's got a helmet on, and it's funny that you mentioned that, but kind of like you talk about the reaction and stuff like this thing with LVE as well. They even hit the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, with LVE, they talk about, you know, he gave the official a decision to make.
Yeah.
The arm does come down. It isn't it. I mean, he's being held. He is being held, and he's being frustrated. But to me, it was like an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman going at it in training camp. They've been looking at each other for the past 4 weeks, and they just get fed up looking at each other. There has to be a little bit of control with LVE. There has to be a little bit of control. I mean, push off the guy. You don't need to raise your arm.
Yep.
You don't need to raise your arm. He could have quite easily pressed on the guy's shoulder plates, on his chest plate, and pushed off, and nobody would have said a word. But he did lift it. There had to be a little bit of control, and you can see he was wound up. He was fired up because they took him off and then sat him on the sideline. You could see in his face he was ready to light somebody up.
Oh man, like that was that's the one thing I loved about that. It's just that, you know, that look. He's like, I'm gonna effing kill him.
Yeah,
loved it.
Again, it's needless penalties.
I know.
Needless penalties that breathes fresh life into an offense.
It seems to be our Achilles heel. We're just giving up these silly little incidents. Like I don't know what you guys thought, but the one with Jalen Smith, I thought was absolute bullshit. JJ just fell down like a sack of potatoes. He really did. Like, Jalen was just basically standing his ground, and it felt like I was watching a soccer game, or watching AC Milan play, just diving about. Yeah, that's what it felt. That's what it felt like to me. Like, seeing what Juju did to get that call, because that was like a fucking 13 or something like that, and that was almost going to a fourth, and that would have been a fourth down, and they would have put it in the bottom where they got the ball back at the time. That was huge. That was a huge part of that game, and because of that, they continued that drive, and they ended up taking the bloody lead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
to go back to the original question on
sorry, mate.
Smith, he is becoming a scapegoat. You can't. I mean, I saw a lot of comments aimed at Smith, blaming Smith. It's a team game.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, we did get away with one. We got away with a huge hold on Anthony Brown. If you remember right, there was a PI not called.
At the start of the game?
Aye.
Yeah, so, I remember it. Yeah.
There's got to be a bit of give and take. The referees are not going to call everything. And let's face it, we don't want them to be rushing to the booth every single time there's a split decision, because the game would take 5 hours. It would take forever. You've got to let the referees ref.
Yeah.
On you go, Paul.
So I was going to jump in and say, like, I'm going to kind of come back into and defend Jalen a bit here. Like, I kind of mentioned this on the pre-game show. It's like, since our defensive line were not performing well, his tackles were obviously going up. But as a result of that, with him doubling up his efforts in terms of getting tackles, stuff like that, he's going to have more exposure to what his normal position would be. So he's going to make more mistakes and still make more tackles. It's like a double negative. Well, not a double negative. It's like you get more tackles, but you're going to make more mistakes at the same time. But it's because our D-line wasn't working. But now that we're seeing that our defensive line are now operating the way they should have been, even though the tackles are coming down, but the mistakes from Jalen are coming down as well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And I think that kind of feeds into more what the plan change was for this season. Was that Jalen was going to move to an outside linebacker position. He was going to try and rush the passer with LVE back in that middle position. Sort of, as we say, that quarterback of the defense, that he was going to be calling the plays from the Mike position. You know, that's Jalen Smith was a rushing outside linebacker in college. That's what you wanted from him. He was getting that quarterback. Yeah, he'll make mistakes. And everyone will call him out for making those mistakes, but they won't remember the 12 or 13 tackles that he made in a game.
Yeah.
That, you know, stopped plays getting into, and I'm going to touch on this in a second, the stop plays getting down onto the safeties who can't tackle a wet friggin' paper bag.
I mean, I think we talked about it, was it 2 shows ago? Smith is the top statted tackler in the league. And it showed on Sunday again. Joint top for tackles, 6 tackles, 1 combined. You don't take your top tackler out of your defense, no matter who he is. Just because he gets flagged for touching Roethlisberger's. He literally just touched Roethlisberger's face guard, and out comes the flag. Because it's not just the Cowboys, we're seeing it across the league. They are protecting offensive players because offensive players create TV audiences. And especially the QB. You cannot see, if you tackle a QB below his knees, you might well get thrown out of the game.
Yeah,
and that's a relatively new. That's not been around forever. That's a relatively new.
It's more than that now. You would actually get. I think you get a suspension and a fine now for it.
Yeah. Pity the Washington football team didn't get one 2 weeks ago. But you're kind of leading into another point that I want to make in terms of our defense, and that is the fact that our safeties are making wide receivers and tight ends look like absolute superstars. I mean, I thought we might have had it fixed with Donovan Wilson coming in, but I mean, look, let's admit, our safeties can't tackle a friggin' wet paper bag.
Yeah, it's a growing concern. Like safeties are supposed to have a reputation of being hard hitters. We're not getting that at all. When you think, like, I'll mention 2 safeties at the top of my hat: Jamal Adams and Terry Matthew. Both of them are hard hitting safeties, both of them, And who's the Raiders safety that they drafted last
Jonathan
year?
Abram.
Yes.
Abram. Yeah.
Hard hitting safety. And And there was also the Washington Washington football team, the one that passed away years ago, who was a safety.
Sean Taylor.
Sean Taylor, there we go. Hard hitting safety. Like, safeties aren't supposed to have that reputation of being like the nail in the coffin of the defense. And it was the same. It was the same when Earl Thomas was at Seattle. He was a nail in the coffin back then. Don't know if he is still now, but I'm not. I don't want to start that conversation again. But I'll leave it at that. But you see where I'm getting at. It's like, and when you compare it to our safeties, we are quite soft. We are.
Yeah.
Just want to say, Brian, you're nailing the pub quiz questions tonight. That was some quick fire knowledge. But to go back to Sunday's game again, you even heard it from Romo. You know, the amount you guys will know the amount of times Romo highlighted the one safety. You know, he circled large areas of the field. You just wonder if Nolan has recognised that and he's going, right, well, I'm going to go. I don't know the name of the packages, but I think he went for an awful lot of nickel. You know, he would bring in an extra corner as opposed to a corner down in coverage as opposed to leaving somebody high. So and I mean, we held an undefeated team to 24 points in the end. So something's clicked, and if it's leaving one safety high and trying to deal with the problem closer to the line of scrimmage, then they might just go with that for the rest of the season. But I agree with you. We've been crying out for a safety for a long time, but we're not going to get into anybody around the league. We've had that conversation. I'm not even going to mention any players.
I try and get a safety now without breaking the bank for someone that's nearly past it, I would say. And again, I'm not going to mention the name, but it seems to be trying to find a rare Pokemon card nowadays. You know what I mean? Like that rare to get a really good safety now is rare.
Noting that he's actually still a free agent.
Yeah, and there's a reason. There's a reason why. Yes, there's a reason for it, and that's why we're not signing them, and that's why no one else has signed them, because there's other teams that do need a safety. Why are they not looking at him? The same reason as what we're doing. We just don't think he's going to be a good fit.
Yeah, but I'm fading along and just try and close out tonight's show. So special teams, we always kind of gloss over. We give them a little bit of numbers, but I mean, the numbers this weekend. I mean, Zerline kicked his goals, great. Niswander came in, did his job, but the last two, kick return, punt return. What happened with our special teams? And I'm also not forgetting the blocked extra point by Tyrone Crawford running straight through the middle.
It is.
You know, I mean, what happened to our special teams? Who lit a fire under their ass?
Oh man, I don't know, man. But what?
My groin's gone. Oh, catch! That was unbelievable. Oh, my hamstring! Oh no, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, I completely freaked out because I was literally on the phone to my friends in the States while I was watching the game. Shout out to the Baracho tailgaters. They were phoning me during the game, wishing I was there with them and all that. And that's when the big run happened. I was like, like it's like that lost puppet. I was like, what is happening here? What is going on? And my phone was blaring up and everything. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy, man.
I mean, that's just another way of winning football games. Something you don't expect.
It did it for us before. Did it? Like special teams literally won us that game against the Atlanta Falcons, big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we literally had zero. I think like the odds of us to win that game with 1 minute to go were like 150 to 1 or something ridiculous. And because we had to
the Falcons were 98% before we got the touchdown and then the onside kick.
Yeah, and once we got that ball back, the odds went. Like we became favourites again to win that.
I mean, you would be forgiven for thinking that special teams was the talking point of the game. I mean, literally down to the false start that allowed them to take their kick again. Crawford coming up big for us. It's just a shame that his kind of contribution to the team has been reduced so much to special teams because he didn't record any kind of tackle or measurable stat on Sunday.
Don't get me wrong. He is still doing his job. Like, he is holding up double blocks. He is opening up the gaps for there was one play in particular. Last week he ended up getting double teamed, and I think that freed up Antoine Woods up the A gap that way. So regardless, and that's the whole point of having two defensive tackles, is that one of them's going to get through regardless. One of them's going to end up getting the double team. So and it's unfortunate, obviously, like you're saying, is it statistic in his stats, we're not seeing that, but he is still putting the work in, and that's just him coming back from hip surgery from the year before. So, I mean,
to talk about the was it a kickoff return? We ran back.
Which one?
Kickoff, the one where we passed from the.
No, that was a punt return by CJ.
It was a punt return.
That was up the left side, and Rico Dowdle was kick return up the right side.
I mean, see if you drill down into that play. If he drops that ball, that's a live ball. I mean, there's no incomplete pass. That his heart must have been pounding in his ears because he juggled it as well. It wasn't a clean catch. There was a kind of bobble to it, and then he took off. But beautifully executed, absolutely tremendous. And that's the type of play that can spark a whole entire team into life.
The whole sideline just completely stood up from that.
Yeah, but if he drops that ball, it's all to play for.
Yeah, it's true. Just a question there from Andrew. Who was that guy? So that was Rico Dowdle, and he has been on our practice squad. We signed him as an undrafted free agent this year. Guys, help me out here. I'm trying to think. I think he might have been Baylor or Texas Tech, but he was one of the Texas college teams.
You guys know more college football than I do. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, could even be SMU. I can't remember, but he was we signed him as an undrafted free agent.
South Carolina.
South Carolina. There you
go.
South
Carolina.
Wasn't even in the right state.
And the punter came from the XFL, didn't he? He came from the XFL.
Yeah, he did.
He ran a 4.5 and you could see it because he took off. He took off, and I will also say the only reason he didn't make the end zone was because of a flailing arm. I imagine we'll get into talking about that, the illegal block in the back. It was a single arm that brought him down. If he hurdled him properly, he's in the end zone.
Yes, it's true.
Oh man, even though even with that flag, they would have got brought back 10 yards or something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would have been a 10-yard line, but man, if that didn't actually happen, if he didn't push him falling down, he would have just cut back inside and still run into the end zone. It was just him only. It was just only that guy for the Steelers, and that was it. It's just unfortunate that block in the back happened, but hell, it was some play, great execution.
Absolutely. So I think given everything, I think we've been a lot more positive frame of mind after this weekend. I think going back to Graham's point, I think this has to be consistent. We have to see this after the bye week against the Minnesota Vikings. That this wasn't the flash in the pan and the exception to the rule. But I think there's a very good chance that this is just it is the turning of the corner in terms of the Cowboys. But we've gone an hour and 20 minutes, folks. We didn't intend going this long with things. We always try and keep it to an hour, but there was enough content from that game that merited discussion. But before we go, Graham, you have a point to make there, have you?
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot this point. Yeah.
If you don't know already, there was they always run pre-game COVID tests, and
aye.
Vance McDonald has, to my knowledge, tested positive. There have been, in that time frame, there have been 4 Steelers added to the COVID list, including Ben Roethlisberger. The likelihood is that it'll mean very, very little to the Cowboys because we're on our bye week. But the Cowboys facility was shut
Today,
yesterday and today, as far as I know.
Yeah, there was no
So
practice today.
we are extremely lucky that we're on a bye week. I mean, you see all the time, like they will keep testing Big Ben, and the likelihood is that he'll be ready to go on Sunday. This is from just solely fantasy purposes, but he will be ready to go on Sunday, like Matthew Stafford was. Matthew Stafford had Zoom calls all week with the offense and managed to play on Sunday. So just on a little bit of tidbit, nothing to do with bad process from the Steelers. It's a regular occurrence. They run these tests all the time. The Steelers followed the protocol as far as I'm aware. But they have four guys now on the list, so some to watch out for in fantasy. But I don't think there was any underhanded dealings. It's just unfortunate the situation that we're in.
I will say this though: how stupid could the Steelers be when they knew about Vance McDonald and still put him on that plane and still let him play? Like from some of the reports I've seen saying he already he was already positive for something like that. Is that no? Am I mistaken?
So I think they thought it might have been a false positive, so that's why they brought him with him.
Right.
But still, I mean,
even if
it's
even a false positive, it's why take the risk? You know.
So
yeah, I
Stephen
think
has jumped in there and given us.
If they have any kind of positive test from Vance McDonald, I think the league would come down heavily on that. Just like Stephen was saying there, for him to test negative, I think allowed it to happen. But if they've got a false positive somewhere and they allowed him to travel to Dallas, that could be heavy sanctions.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought it was all well above board. But anyway, we're on a bye week. It probably means very, very little for us because I think the players get most of this week off anyway. So, there you go.
Right, you know what? I'm going to answer this one. I've got my answer is America. That's my answer.
Yeah,
that's it. America. That's it. Yeah. Doesn't matter who's in charge.
For listeners on the podcast, we were asked a political question there, and I think we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. It's all about football, man. But cheers for the comments, Alex. Cheers for the comments, everyone. You are the stars of this show.
At the end of the day, our love is American football. It is not American politics. We're allowed. We all might have a differing opinion, or we all might have the same opinion, but at the end of the day, we all love American football. We're here to talk American football.
Hell yeah.
That's all it is. Our love of the Dallas Cowboys is what it's all about.
Oh, God.
But
I agree. There we go.
Before we go, Graham, if you want to give a shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah, if you're planning to make a visit to Big D this season, make sure you visit cowboysexperience.com and mention UK Cowboys. To my knowledge, there were far too many Steelers in that stadium. We need to get more Cowboys in there. So if you're going to make it along to a game, visit cowboysexperience.com. Once in a lifetime opportunity it could be. This would only be the cherry on top of the cake. Discount code UK Cowboys.
As we always say, folks, and in the words of Richard Jones, don't be a clown. Get your free stuff.
Get your free stuff.
Absolutely. But Mike and the team will be along on Friday evening. Thursday evening. My apologies. I'm also looking for something here at the same time. Thursday evening at 9:00 our time here in the UK and Ireland.
4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific.
And I think that's 3 o'clock in Dallas time if you're in the
3 o'clock in
Dallas Mountain area. But as we say, look, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. This podcast is available on YouTube. It's on iTunes. It's on Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud. Anywhere you get your podcasts, we are on there. But from me, it's a good night. Over to Paul.
For me, it's a good night.
And Graham.
See you next time.
Take care, folks.